Welcome back to the Mulberry Book Drop. Hey, Bethany.
Hi, Sarah.
How you doing?
I'm so good.
Yeah? What month are we in?
September.
September. We had to think about it for a second.
September.
And all that's going through my brain is the Earth, Wind, and Fire. Do you remember the children?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I can sing that on here, but it's fine. It's okay. All right, let's jump into it. Tell me something good.
Well, I have two good things, if that's okay with you.
Wow, no, we set limits here. Just kidding. We don't. Go ahead.
Okay, well, so number one, I finally got myself like a lighted vest thingy for running, because you know how I'm always out there in the dark.
Yeah. Oh, and that's so exciting.
Yeah, and please know, I'm always extra careful. I am always watching for cars. I jump out of the way. I stop. I don't care about my time. I care about my safety. So I was never, one of those runners, but I finally have, it's like this LED thing, and it can be blue, green, rainbow, whatever I want it to be. It can flash. It can be solid. But now if I'm running at 5 a.m, I'm safe.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. So I'm also please, can the temperatures come down a little bit more so I can actually use it? Because for a while, I've only been running maybe a mile, and it's just so hot. I can't.
Well, in the humidity, the air has been so incredibly thick.
Yeah, and I don't have asthma, so I give all of you credit. I don't know how you guys do it sometimes. I really do feel for you, because it's bad.
Yeah.
So, but my other thing is, I don't know if I told you, but several months ago, a couple of my friends, we've been trying to get our book club going again. Mm-hmm. And they had some specific books they were looking at. And then it was my husband well, I would maybe read that. And I was like, you would read that? And he's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden my one friend's brother was like, well, I would do that. And then another friend who was already in our book club was like, hey, I have this friend. And we were like, is she cool? Yeah, you can bring her if she's cool. And so now we kind of researched our book club, and it's really fun, and we've had a couple meetings, and great conversations, great food. Have you ever been to Born and Bred?
I've had food from there, yes.
Okay, so the one person was like, hey, I'm hitting up this bakery, and he brought me a vegan muffin, and it was this banana nut muffin, and it had banana stuff in the inside. It was all vegan. Oh my gosh, it was so good.
Yeah?
But he was not expecting there to be that line down the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he was a little late for book club that day, but we forgave him because the food was so delicious.
That's exciting.
But it's really fun, and my husband's a part of it. So it's been really cool to have him be in a book club with me. So
what a great time.
Yeah. So that's my something good. I know you guys are can you do anything that's not with books? And the reality is, I can, but it still gives me time with my friends and all of that stuff. And
that's so exciting.
It is.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah, I'm loving it. So what's your good thing?
So I went on a beach retreat earlier this month, and it was so good. I feel so rested.
Sarah, why is all your good always traveling?
Listen, because I like to travel. Whether that be in real life or in a book. I just love traveling. It was really good. It was in St. Augustine, and I hadn't been since I was in elementary school, so that was really fun to go back to.
I've never been to St. Augustine. Isn't that where the Fountain of Youth is?
It's so pretty. So pretty.
Yeah.
Such a good time. And there's also a ton of free things to do there. Okay. So don't go thinking you have to spend all this money, because you really don't. We were at a resort for the retreat, but we went out and did so many free things.
Cool.
So yeah, it was a great time.
Well, you know me. If it's free,
it's for me. Do you have anything funny?
Well, so we renewed our zoo membership.
Ooh.
Yes. So we went to the zoo with one of our kids. His girlfriend had never been to the zoo before, so he really wanted to take her. So they asked us to go with them. And so we went on a little double date. And when you go into the zoo and they got the screens and they take your pictures?
Yeah.
And then they always do okay, parents, if you want to step aside, just the kids. This happens every time. And I never really, I never really thought about it. So we step aside and they take pictures of them. And I'm like, oh, cute. Now they'll have a little memory of their trip to the zoo. And then we split off, because it was sort of you guys go have your, so we walked the zoo, just the two of us with no kids, which was really weird.
Yeah.
Because I have not walked the zoo without, like, little gremlins running around me and all that kind, because I would always go with, like, my cousins and my friends, and we'd have, like, a collection of kids, and you're constantly, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we got them all. Let's keep going. And so it was really nice to just kind of be able to enjoy it. But ever since we got the zoo membership, like, we have the little flash drive. So as we were getting ready to leave, I was like, well, I'll go get our pictures. And so I walk over, and she's going through the whole spiel, and I'm like, yeah, I already know this. Like, I have my flash drive. And she's like, oh, okay, So she pulls the pictures up, and I pick the one to print, and then she goes to put them on the flash drive. And first I asked her, how many pictures are they allowed to take? And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, like, they always, like, send the parents off to the side. How come they never do pictures of just the parents? And she goes, I don't know. You can ask, like, we can load up to, like, 40 pictures at a time. And I'm like, and it would be the same amount of money? And she was like, yeah, like, whatever they take, we can put on here if you're, So next time we're going to ask. But the funny part is, when she opened up the flash drive, all of our previous pictures showed up. And I saw her face, and I looked up at the screen, and there on the screen is all of our floating head photos. Do you remember the time
Yes, I was actually going to ask you about that.
So my children one time asked us if we could all wear green shirts to the zoo so that when we did our pictures in front of the green screen, we would just be like floating heads with all of the zoo scenes around and behind us. And she burst out laughing. It was the funniest thing. But, like, I mean, if I could do an impression of her face when that flash drive opened and she's just kind of looking at the screen, like, I wish I had taken her picture, seeing our pictures.
I love that.
It was so funny.
That is.
Yeah. So lesson learned, parents, if you go to the zoo and they set you aside and do just the kids, that's great. That's great. But you're at the zoo too. And so you should ask if they will get pictures of just the parents as well.
Yeah, have your moment.
You should have your moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Big fan of that.
Yeah.
I'm pointing. So, you can't see it, but I'm pointing.
But I'm also really excited that we renewed our zoo membership because I forgot how much I love the zoo. And it had been a couple years since we had been there. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What do you got? What's funny?
So, I mean, I think it's funny. You may not think it's funny, but it's okay. No, I'm just kidding. Ow. Sorry, I just hit the table.
We're a mess today.
So the other night we're eating dinner, and I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, but I live with my brother, sister-in-law, and niece. It's so much fun. Like, all the time. There's laughing. All the time. So the other night we're eating dinner. We finished dinner, and I get up, and my brother starts singing the Hokey Pokey, and my niece and I are, like, we're doing it. And then he, like, runs out of body parts that gotta go in and then go out. Yeah. So then he's like, all right, now your teeth, and now your tongue, and now your elbow. And
it almost sounds like it's a cross between the Hokey Pokey and what's the other weird song where you're like,
Tootie Ta.
That's what it
We're
sounds
big
like.
fans of Tootie Ta. But it was so funny. And kids' laughs. Mm-hmm. Kids' laughs are the best medicine, I swear, because she is just dying over here doing the Hokey Pokey and turning herself around, and she is laughing so hard, and it was just like the best. Like, we're all cracking up. Mm-hmm. She's laughing hysterically, and she just, because, like, you're trying to do, like, the Hokey Pokey and you have your tongue out and you can't really sing it, so you're like, like, and it's just so funny.
That's so cute.
So yeah, it was totally such a good time.
Like, I know you guys aren't going to live together forever. Yeah. Like, this was just an awesome situation that came about that worked out for everybody. But, like, she's so going to remember this when she's older.
Oh yeah, like,
you guys just have the best time.
Yeah, like, Tuesday mornings are my late days, and well, now she's back in school, so we don't get to do it. But, like, she would wake up on Tuesday mornings, and, like, she would come in my room while I would get ready for work. I almost said ready for school. Ready for work. And then she'll be like, okay, we have to make sure we make your bed. And then she'll just go over and start making my bed. Aww. And it's just, like, literally, like, maybe 20 minutes of us getting to hang out. Mm-hmm. But it's so fun. We have our own handshake now.
Which I saw. It's very intense. It's just so, yeah.
It is. She wants to do it, like, 10 times a day. And listen, I will do it every time. Yep. Because at some point she's going to not want to do it anymore.
Yeah. She's such a happy kid.
And that's going to make me really sad.
Okay. Is she still doing tumbling? Wasn't she doing, like, gymnastics or something?
Yeah, for her birthday she got this big, huge, like, I don't know, inflatable, like, gymnastics mat.
Okay.
It's kind of like how kayaks and paddleboards are. Like they're just inflatable, but they're nice.
Yeah.
And she is so advanced. I think she's going to do cheerleading this year, which involves a lot of tumbling. I'm telling you, she's so good.
Very cool.
So good.
Aww.
Yeah. And I'll be like, watch me do it. And I can't, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I love that.
All right. So, why I've brought us here together today is to join together. No, I'm kidding. Today, we're going to talk about something that's a little sad. And it's called a book slump.
Wah, wah.
Yeah.
We need a sound effect for that.
We do. One. No, I think you nailed it.
Did I?
Honestly, yeah.
Okay. I'll take it.
So if you don't know what a book slump is when you read a bunch of books and all of a sudden get to a point of you just can't find a book. Like, to make you happy, you try to read one, you stop, you can't keep going, it's sad, you start crying. I'm just kidding, I added that part in. But it's just a time where you can't get into a book, you're struggling, you can't find one, you do try reading one, and you just can't get into it, and then you just don't finish it, or it'll take you, like, months to read it. And this is all from the Dictionary of Sarah. So this is 100% what I think a book slump is. And why I say that is because I've been in them a lot. Like, It's crazy. It usually happens about once a year for me, if not more.
Maybe it's almost like seasonal depression.
Maybe.
You have like a seasonal book slump.
Maybe.
You might have to start marking like when it happens to you.
We're just going to turn this into a therapy session. Let's unpack this. I'm kidding. That's one of my new favorite sayings is let's unpack this. I love it.
It's dangerous.
It is. Tears have been involved. It's fine. So, but I wanted to talk, well, one, have you ever been in a book slump?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. It happens. Listen, it happens. And Bethany reads a lot. I read a lot. Bethany reads a lot. And so it happens. So if it happens to you, it's completely normal.
Yeah, I think it happens to everyone. And I do think, in addition to what you were saying, because I do agree with like your definition, but I think sometimes too it also comes in with like what you have going on in your life.
Yeah.
And like one of the things we talk about in book club that I probably have mentioned on here before is that like, you know, sometimes it might just be the wrong time for that book.
Oh, for sure.
And so it's like if we're picking up the wrong book, then it's just reinforcing the book slump.
Yeah.
Like it's just making it worse. Yeah. So like if I had to think of an example probably of like my most recent one, it would have been like when we had moved here. And I think there was, even though I didn't know it at the time, there was probably like depression from like the move, right? Because it was like we left all of our family and friends, 1,800 miles, like it was a lot, right? And we had to sell a house that I had trouble letting go of because it was like our kids were born and we brought them all home to that house. Like, so there was a lot of emotional stuff attached, right? Yeah. Then we end up here and I have no friends. And then I finally get, like, I couldn't read for a while because it was like I had to get the kids enrolled in school and I had like this whole to-do list. Well, all of a sudden it's like everything's checked off the list and now I'm home alone. Yeah. And I'm like, I have nobody to talk to. And so like to me, naturally, what am I supposed to do? Well, I'm supposed to read. So it's like I go to pick up the stuff I would normally read, but it was too much because I wasn't emotionally capable of reading a mystery or a thriller, or it was too much. And so what got me out of the slump was Janet Ivanovich. Oh. Remember? I think I've talked about it. I am pretty sure that I read that entire series that she had out up to that point within the first year of living here in Florida.
Oh, wow.
And it was all of those books. They have the same outline to them. You know, there was a little bit more in the first book really introducing you to the character of Stephanie Plum. But each book following would always have the same little paragraph or two that just gave you a hint of like a little reminder of who she is and who the love interests are and who grandma is. Like just little things so that if you were to read them out of order, you could still read them. Yeah. But if you've already read all of them, you like don't need any more than that, right? Because then you're bored. And they were funny, they were quick, and they were my first friends in Florida, and that's what got me out of the slump and got me like reading again.
I love that. Yeah. So I want to talk about common times that people get into reading slumps. Okay. So, well, for example, you just talked about your move. So I think when anything big or something drastic happens in your life, I feel like that can cause a reading slump, I
like
feel
overwhelmed. That's the word I was trying to think of. That's when you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I think it creates a reading slump. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think probably the biggest one that people don't even think about is school.
Yes.
Like, I don't know how many times, like, people have come into the library, or I've talked to friends, I've talked to family members or other people, and they'll always be like, oh my gosh, I used to read so much as a teenager, and then I got into college and I just kind of stopped and I just haven't picked it up. And they'll be like 40, 45 years old, and they're like, yeah, I used to be a really avid reader and now I'm not. And then it's one of those things of like, no, maybe you've just been in a reading slump, because you're reading these textbooks, you're downloading all of this information, and your brain is just like, I'm done. Like, I don't want it anymore.
Well, and it's almost like you've got forced reading.
Yep.
Makes you forget how to enjoy pleasure reading. Right? Like
exactly. Yeah. So I feel like that. I feel like when people get married, a lot of times, sometimes that can, now you're joining together with a whole new person. And so now you just want to do things all the time with each other. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's not necessarily reading. Although I do know couples that have gotten married and they're both avid readers. So it just continues, which I think is so cool. And then, so you have like that. You have kids. I mean, hello. Mm-hmm. Kids take up your life. So my cousin had a daughter. She is, oh goodness, she's about 5 months, almost 6 months old now, and she was at my house for my niece's birthday party last month, and she wanted some books. So I sent her home with an Emily Henry book and
how fun.
An Abby Jimenez series. Mm-hmm. So that was really fun to get to recommend those.
That's
to
really
her.
cool, because I do think of, okay, I get it, not everybody loves reading, but I think if you're listening to this podcast, you probably do either love it or at least appreciate it.
Right.
And I do think of reading as self-care.
Yes, so like 1,000%.
Yeah, so for like a new mom or what, because it depending on what you're reading and your personality and all that, it does give you like some sort of human connection.
Yeah,
and especially if you are like whether it's the mom or whoever that stay-at-home parent is who's doing like the childcare home alone.
Yeah,
it is very isolating.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So even though it's wonderful, it's isolating.
Yeah. And then I was thinking, like, when people lose somebody. Mm-hmm. Like my grandma, I was thinking about this earlier today. I absolutely love my grandma. I'm talking about my dad's mom. Mm-hmm. She's really the one that got me into reading. And I don't see her like really ever. She lives about an hour and a half away, kind of 2 hours away. And it's just kind of hard to see her. But like, that's where my love of reading comes from. But I was thinking, I was like, wow, like when I moved away from her where she lives, like I kind of was in a reading slump, because she was that person. I would go over to her house and we'd read together. And so even though I didn't physically lose her, like she lives 2 hours away. So we kind of lost that together. But like other people, like when they lose a loved one, that kind of thing, that can cause, and I think it's like you kind of get depressed. And wow, this is turning into a very therapeutic episode.
But it's hard to focus when you're in that state. Yeah,
for sure.
Because even if you think about it, even like you might watch TV when you're feeling like that, and you're still not catching the whole show. Like, don't you ever, like, you just zone out?
Oh, for sure.
And, like, then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what did I miss? What happened?
Right.
And that can happen with reading, too. And then it's like, why am I even bothering to read this book?
Yeah.
Because, a book takes even longer than a 30-minute episode. So you just kind of are like, forget it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we've all thrown a book down at some point just because of that.
Yeah. So, and then I was thinking, like, even starting a new job, like, you're going through life. Like, life gets busy, life gets hectic, and you start doing all these different things that sometimes, like, reading just goes to the back of your mind, and then you're just in this big slump. So instead of focusing on all these sad parts that can happen, we're going to focus on things that can help us get out of reading slumps.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go. All right, so for my friends that have not been reading in 15 years because they went to college and were forced to read boring things. Just kidding, they're not always boring. But I highly recommend a book tasting. 1,000%.
I like that.
Our boss is really big on book tastings. She did the middle school book club, and every month they had a book tasting. They had a different genre, and they would set a timer, I think for like 5 minutes, start reading a book, And if they liked it, they would hold on to it. If they didn't, they would go on to the next one. I think a book tasting is great. You know,
I love that.
They have wine tastings, beer tastings, coffee tastings. What about a book tasting?
Yes. Well, and I do that with the adults sometimes when they come in. And, like, we just had a gentleman last month, like, got a new library card, first time, and who knows when. He had just moved back to the area. And I had asked him, like, what's the last thing you read that you enjoyed? Because that's always my first question.
Yeah.
Well, what's the last thing you remember reading that you really liked?
Yeah.
You know, let's start there. Because even if you're an adult and you haven't read in a while and you're going to tell me that the last thing you read that you loved was Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, I'm going to be like, then let's go back in the teen room. Who cares?
Yeah.
We're going to find you something in there.
Yeah. Where's the rule that says you can't do that?
Yeah.
There's not one.
I gave him The Queen's Gambit.
Okay.
Which I loved. Told him the TV show was also awesome. But I gave it to him because it's short. It's less than I think it might be like 250 pages. So it's not overwhelming. Like when you're just getting back into reading, like you don't want someone to hand you like, you know, a 1,000-page book by Stephen King and then feel like it's homework. Like you know what I mean? So you want something that's not as intimidating.
Yeah.
But then I also picked out something that's like funny. So I gave him one of the Kevin Wilson books. Nothing to See Here, I think is what it was called. And it's the one where the children, like when they get really upset or angry, they like self-combust. Like, so the flame, like, you've probably seen the cover of the kid with the flames on it. This sounds wild, but the story was very entertaining. You know, so but I helped him pick out 3 books that were very different.
Yeah.
And then as I tell all adults when I do this with them, just read the first chapter or 2. If it's not for you, put it down, move on to the next one, and just return it. Like, my feelings aren't hurt. Like, I need you to come back and tell me what you liked and what you didn't like so that it starts steering us in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, and, like, Bethany and I, like, we recommend so many books to people, and it's one of those things of our feelings will not be hurt.
No.
Because just in the same of not outfit is for everybody, not every show or movie is for everybody. The same way the same book isn't for everybody. Like, everybody's not going to love the same thing. And that's fine. That's what makes us unique. It's fun.
Yep. Do you remember last week somebody came in and said that they did not like lessons in chemistry? And I kept my composure.
She did.
And I was very proud of her for being honest with me.
Yeah.
And we actually had a very nice conversation, I thought. And I thought it was really good to actually hear a different perspective because it was one of my like best book of last year.
Yeah.
And so many people who have brought it back have really loved it and rated it like 4 or 5 stars if they do the star ratings. And so it actually helped me to hear what she had to say and like her perspective. So I was very glad that she told me.
When she said that, I was like, oh, that was Bethany's favorite book.
You're like looking at, is she crying?
Is Bethany crying? Is she okay? It happens, but it's okay. Our feelings are not hurt. We are not all the same people. Bethany and I are not the same people. We do enjoy a lot of the same books. Though.
Yeah.
So the first one
tasting.
is book tastings. Listen. My dream is to own a bookstore and coffee shop. We will have book tastings along with coffee tastings. So when that happens, I'll let y'all know, okay? That's really far down the line, but it's fine. Book tastings. And this kind of goes along with book tastings, but try a different genre. Just how a couple months ago we read some of our childhood favorite books that involved vampires. They don't always hold up. So if that doesn't do it, try something different. Hello. We both tried romance and are now obsessed with contemporary romance books.
We're a mess.
Yeah. Like, we have a whole episode called Dear Romance. Yeah. Come on. So try something different. Go out of that comfort zone. It's okay because the comfort zone will always be there. But now you're opening yourself up to so many other things, so many other books. And I just keep thinking about contemporary romance because... Like,
I think it's just because it's a good example for you and I because I think it is something that surprised us about ourselves. Yeah. So I think that's where that comes in.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I love Hallmark movies, so it shouldn't have been as big of a surprise as it was, but it was.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, or like if you are maybe a romance reader and you're like, ugh, I'm over it, maybe try a thriller. You might get thrilled.
Well, and we were talking about this during our one book club, is that, like, even if you're not a romance reader, like, there is relationships and romance in literally every other genre anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, whether you're reading sci-fi or mystery, like, there is always some sort of couple and, you know, and maybe even if it's not a romantic couple, it might be a friendship couple. And so sometimes, you know, you might find that you really enjoy, like, a friendship trope. So, like, two people who come together find that they have things in common, they help each other, and they end up being, like, friends for life. Like, that's still a relationship. So if you enjoy romance and relationships, you'd be surprised what you might find in other genres if you haven't tried them yet.
Yeah. If you're just a fiction reader, maybe try a nonfiction book. If you just typically do nonfiction, throw in a fiction book. Who knows what'll happen? Like, that can open up a whole can of worms for you in a good way. In a good way.
I would like to throw out there, too, though, as another idea for reading slumps, because I think this has helped both of us a couple of times, but, like, talk to people about the books you're reading.
Yes.
Like, reading is a solitary activity. So unless you're in a group or in a relationship where you guys actually, like, read a chapter aloud to each other and are always reading the same book. I mean, how many of us are always reading the same book as somebody? It's pretty rare, you know?
Unless you're in a book club.
I know our situation's different because we work in a library and talk about books all day. But even before that, like, I always had people in my life that I trusted enough where I could be like, hey, I read this book, and, you know, or ask your friend, what are you reading right now? How is it? What's it about? Like, I think sometimes that helps because it keeps you excited and helps you, like, talk through what you are and aren't enjoying, because sometimes, like, we might be reading something and we feel like we have to finish it, and we need to give ourselves the okay to put it down if it's not working for us right now.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes talking about it can almost help give you that permission to be like, maybe I'm not enjoying it as much as I think I'm supposed to. Like, I need to move on.
Yeah.
And I think we need to not be afraid of what we're, like, reading.
Right.
You know, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a prime example of that is I love listening to Riley Sager books on audio. His newest one just got sent back today. I think I got about 20% of the way done with it. And don't get me wrong, so far it's really good. I'm just not in an audiobook mood right now. So I sent it back, and we're going to try again later.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I still want to read it. I enjoyed what I heard so far, but right now I go through phases. I go through, like, I listen to podcasts like crazy. I listen to audiobooks like crazy. I listen to music like crazy.
Yeah.
And right now I'm just listening to music like crazy. So I'm taking a break from podcasts and audiobooks, and that's okay. So don't beat yourself up.
No.
Yeah. But with this, I wanted to just kind of tell you some books that helped me get out of reading slumps. And maybe you have a couple too. If not, think about them.
Okay.
Get them brewing. I know you just mentioned the Janet Ivanovich series.
Yes.
So the first one was, honestly, I don't even remember how I found this book. But it was my very first Riley Sager book. And it was Final Girls. So that was my very first Riley Sager book. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it wasn't like super gotcha, but I devoured it. Like, oh my goodness, absolutely devoured it. That was such a good one. People We Meet on Vacation. I want to say that you had talked to me about Emily Henry beforehand.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible, because I can't remember what order I read her books, but that might have been the first one I did by her as well.
I think so, and that one still holds up to be my favorite. Yeah. And I think part of it is because it got me out of a reading slump. The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez, which you also recommended. So clearly, and I know I say this almost every episode, but when I need a book, I go to Bethany.
Bethany's got a gift.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. I really don't.
No, but she really does. No. Don't let her fool you. Yes, she does. So that one, Goodnight, Beautiful by Aimee Molloy. Guess who recommended that one?
Forgot about that one.
Yes, it got me out of a reading slump. It's so good. Still recommend that one to these days. To this day, like, I still recommend all these ones. And then the last one that I have mentioned is The Wrong Family by Tarryn Fisher. I don't know if I'm saying her name right.
Oh, yeah.
It was so fun.
Okay.
So good. It was a thriller, and it made me go a couple times. Oh, and we love that.
Interesting,
so
yeah.
Most of these are recommendations by Bethany. So
Stop.
She's getting a complex. No, she's just really good at her job. So, yeah, but those are a couple. Did you think of any?
Well, so for me, because I tend to read, like, pretty much any genre I can get my hands on. I think the only thing that I really struggle with is science fiction. Like, science fiction fantasy is still a process for me. I have read some that I have absolutely loved that, like, really were, like, just the right amount. But it's still a genre that I get nervous.
Okay.
Is that dumb? I get nervous when I go to read it because I'm so scared because it's always like everybody loves it. And then what if I'm the person who doesn't because I just don't understand?
And that's okay.
Yeah. And I love the movies sometimes, you know, like I can get behind a movie, but sometimes the books are too much. So that's that makes me nervous. So sometimes when I am in a slump, though, I tend to go for nonfiction.
Okay.
I really enjoy nonfiction. And so I think sometimes when I'm in a reading slump, I take it as an opportunity to just take my time with a nonfiction and maybe learn something.
Okay.
But one of my favorites are always like memoirs, audiobook. So when somebody writes a memoir and they read me their story in their words, like that's probably my favorite, because it's almost like they're just kind of sitting on the couch next to me or taking my walk with me and my dog, and they're just telling me the story of their life. And sometimes I just really love that. So, and a lot of times if it's a famous person who, like famous people, like we feel like we know them, but we really don't know them. Some of their memoirs are the best, because all of a sudden you'll be like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that movie, or, oh wow, I can't believe that happened behind the scenes. That's so cool. Or learning maybe some mistakes they made and how they grew. And sometimes you can get little life lessons in there for yourself that you might be able to use someday. But I think nonfiction, that's, which I know a lot of people say they don't like nonfiction, but I don't know. I really enjoy a good memoir. And then I also love learning things. So like Mary Roach. I love Mary Roach for like science stuff. I think she's probably one of my favorite authors that puts a little humor into it for me so that I can like understand it without having a PhD. And I don't know, she's fascinating. Yeah.
Well, and I think with nonfiction, when people say they don't like nonfiction, I think it goes back to they just haven't found what they like in nonfiction, for sure. Because I mean, over the past 5 years, the amount of nonfiction that I've read personally has grown so much. And I want to learn. I want to know more about this. And then I tend to go down a rabbit hole, and I'm not mad about it.
Right.
So, it happens.
Yeah. Well, I do know one of our friends, she was just like, ugh, Bethany and her memoirs. And she's like, I don't understand why she likes memoirs. She was literally just telling us this story at book club the other day. So, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And she goes, no, I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I read a memoir. And she's like, I got to tell you guys about this memoir. Ooh, and so she started telling us about Educated by Tana Westover.
Okay.
Tara. Sorry. Tana French is a different author. Tara Westover. Sorry. Because she had asked me, she's like, what is it? And I said, well, I think for me, it's just this, like, sometimes we think that the world revolves around us, but, like, it doesn't. Like, we spend all this time trying to teach our kids, like, the world does not revolve around you. And I think that's one of the big things for me is, like, there is this whole world out there.
Right.
Everybody's having different experiences. So, like, while I'm here doing this one thing, there are billions of people out there doing all this other stuff that, like, I know nothing about. And so to me, it's really interesting to learn about that. Yeah. To find out, what is it like if you're raised in this type of home? What is it like if you became famous at 15 years old or became famous at 35 years old? What is the difference between, I like learning different things and just realizing that there's like this whole, I think it just gives you perspective.
Learning is fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's it depends on, what you're looking for, I guess. But yeah. I don't know.
All right. Well, that's book slumps. That's it. We're done. Nobody will be another one ever again. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. That it can totally happen.
Yeah.
So I do have one more question for you before we skedaddle on out of here.
Okay.
And that is, what are you currently reading?
Well, I suppose this could kind of go along with book slumps, but so there's this podcast I also listen to. It is currently called How to Be Fine. And I do want to stress, if you guys give it a chance, they do use explicit language sometimes. So they kind of have, I think in their intro, they call it barnyard language. So just be advised if that bothers you.
Barnyard language.
But anyway, it's called How to Be Fine. And that's also what their book is called. But it's How to Be Fine, What We Learned from Living by the Rules of 50 Self-Help Books. And the purpose of their podcast is really interesting, because what they do is they read a self-help book together, and then they have to like live by it for 2 weeks, and they talk about what worked, what didn't work, what they learned, what they might continue in their lives versus what they won't. And then they also do a follow-up epilogue episode where people can actually like write in about like, oh my gosh, I read this book a long time ago and here's what happened to me. And so it's really fascinating. So if like me, you do enjoy nonfiction, it's a really cool way to enjoy some of these books without maybe actually having to read them. And last season, they even did like through the decades. Ooh. And they were reading the book as it was the year it was published, and then they would bring a professor in to talk about like the context of the world at that time, and so some of the language that was used, and so they really put it into historical context, which was neat. But my favorite one from that season, I actually did an ILL for it because I was like, I have to read this book, and it was Phyllis Diller's Housekeeping Hints. The episode was the funniest thing ever because Phyllis Diller is a comedian. Some of you probably know that. She is hilarious. But her housekeeping hints were like, oh, is your sink dirty and you don't want the company to see your dirty sink and you can't get it clean? Oh, just leave dishes in it and then nobody can see the dirty sink. Like, these are her housekeeping hints. But it was so funny. And like the book itself is adorable because it had like these great cartoons in it. And I mean, I laughed. I laughed during the episode, and I laughed when I actually read the book, and I read it in like an hour. I mean, it's just this little tiny book, but it was so worth it.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So, How to Be Fine. What are you reading?
I'm reading a book. It's a young adult book. It's called All Fall Down by Allie Carter. I know nothing about it. I haven't even started it. I posted on my Instagram and my Facebook that I wanted to read recommendations by friends for last month, actually, for the month of August. And some of them didn't quite get done in August.
Okay.
So I'm kind of going into it blind. I'm excited. The cover is very interesting. It's giving dystopian. And I'm not mad about that because really that's all I really read now in young adults. Young adults doesn't quite hit for me the way that it used to. Sometimes I can get in a book slump reading young adult books, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen, where it's going to go, and how it's going to end. And it's a series. So we'll see if I continue with the series. So
I look forward to finding out.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, with that, we didn't cover a ton about this topic. We could probably talk for hours on this topic, to be honest, but unfortunately we don't have hours to talk about this topic. But if you have a way that people can get out of reading slumps, any kind of tips or tricks,
for example, maybe they just need to go read a Judy Blume book from their childhood and then everything's right with the world again.
Exactly. So if you have any of those, please email us at themulberrylibrary@gmail.com, and maybe we can share some of it on our social media.
I would love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all we got for today.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you all. Happy reading, Mulberry.